Hi, everyone. This is Avery Peel, host of the Hope Matrix on Campus podcast. We are here to share the science, strategies, and stories for how to hope. I am the Community Hope Specialist at the Shine Hope Company, and Shine is the mnemonic for how we teach hope. So when we talk about hope, we talk about the stress skills, happiness habits, inspired actions, nourishing networks, and eliminating challenges, which are the thinking patterns that get in the way of our ability to hope. Hope is a skill. You can measure hope, you can teach hope, and you can start practicing skills to activate higher hope in your life today. And on this Hope Matrix on Campus podcast, we aim to bring in guests, experts in science, people with stories, and those that have strategies for activating hope in your life. Right. Welcome back to the Hope Matrix on Campus. I'm your host, Avery Peel, and today I have with me Miss Dawn Spragg. Hi, Dawn.
Hey, Avery.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. So, Miss Dawn created what we call TASC. It's the Teen Action and Support Center. And I want to hear everything about why you created it and what it is and how it benefits all of the teens in the Northwest Arkansas area.
Okay. Well, how much time do you have? No, I'm just kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I'm a co-founder, so I always want to be sure that people know that this is not a one-person um, opportunity. It's something that the community got around, but my husband, who's an incredible business strategic planner, and has a great business mind, really helped kind of birth as well. So we started Task actually coming up on 20 years, and
Oh.
we did so because I have a real passion for teenagers. I love the age. I think it's a really important developmental time. And so I'm always really looking for resources for teenagers. And when we moved here, and started really getting involved in our community, realized that we had a lot of, not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, we had some support services for youth, which usually includes children um, all the way up to teenagers. And because we know that children developmentally are very different than teenagers, we felt like it was really important to make sure that we carved out space to provide very specific support services to teenagers. So we work with at Task, we work with 13 to 19-year olds, and we have a number of different programs, but we really focus on whole teen well-being approach, right? So making sure that students have the resources that they need, that they have access to care, whatever that might look like, whether it's counseling services or resource services, after school initiatives that build life skills and adulting skills and that kind of stuff. We also really, really focused on making sure that teens have opportunities to connect into the community. And so we have community service learning projects, art activities, a lot of opportunities for students to be out in the community, taking care of people and sharing their gifts and that kind of stuff. So, lots and lots to take too long probably to tell you about all of our different programs, but yeah, just lots of opportunities for students to get the support they need so that as they launch into adulthood, they're the very best version of themselves. So we do a lot of counseling, and we have a whole team, a whole therapeutic team, including group people who do group work for our students, and we try to find really innovative ways to help students process trauma and grief and navigate anxiety and depression and all of those things. But then all of our other programs are kind of wrapped around to make sure students have everything they need.
Yeah, that is truly amazing. And I really believe what you're doing is going to help so many people and probably already has helped so many people. And I mean, first of all, congratulations on coming up on
Thank
20
you.
years.
Thank
That's so
you.
exciting. Do you have
Right.
any contact with the students, like, after they graduate high school and maybe surpass that age to be a part of TASC, but do you still have
We we
contact with them?
we do. Always really grateful when students will come up and kind of let us know that they've been here before. But what's super cool is that we do have some students actually. We have one staff member who actually came through one of our programs and works in the program as a social worker um, in the program that she came through. So she went to school and got her bachelor's degree and now is in the master's program for social work. And so, yeah, so she works with us right now. And then we also have a counseling intern who, same thing, was received services here and felt like that made a big impact in her life. And so she's also in the counseling program. She's in the Master's of Community Counseling at the U of A and is doing an internship here. So that those kind of things are like full circle, really like, we
That's
really love
great.
those. Yeah, we love those stories for sure.
I bet it's so nice to see them come back and see the impact that you made on them, and, I mean, those are
Yeah,
such important developmental years in a child's life. I mean, I know that
mhm,
a teen isn't technically a child, but
mhm.
those years are so important and really just developing who they become as a person.
Sure.
So, I'm sure that every single teen who comes through task is just eternally grateful for you and your team and everything you'll do
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah, we really do. We have just such an incredible team of people who not only have a heart for teens, but they're just really they're well educated. Their professional development's really focused around team development and best practices and positive youth development theory, positive empowerment theory for teens. Like we really try to make sure that we stay close to the research and the understanding that really can help them.
Absolutely. And I had the opportunity of doing a workshop with Miss Dawn a couple weeks ago at the Hub in Rogers. And I haven't told you this yet, but I was truly so grateful to be able to be there. And something that really stood out to me was how comfortable the teens were when they got there. It was
Yeah,
like immediately they felt like they were home. And to a lot of teens who might not have such a stable home life, I just that being able to see that impact firsthand was truly so inspiring to me.
thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely, kudos to our staff, our front what we call our frontline staff. They work with students every afternoon in lots of after-school programs and other things, and they've developed a really, safe, comfortable place for our students to be who they are.
Absolutely. And that is so important. That's so important. So let's get into the Shine framework a little bit and talk about
Ah,
some of the stress skills that you used. I know that this couldn't have been easy. And going on 20 years, I mean, I'm sure there has
sure.
been so much stress buildup just throughout those 20 years. But initially, when you started this, I mean, what was it like trying to handle a startup?
Whew, yeah. Well, obviously terrifying, and very stressful. There's um, big financial commitments and a lot of legal, business sort of things to consider, and so yeah. So in using when I just think about the Shine Hope framework, just in the startup, I would say first thing definitely would have to be, networking, like the nursing networks, like being able to find like-minded people um, just I hate to say hope, but like work together with this like vision for the future and plan for stuff, and it's just something you can't do alone, and so just being able to trust that, um, people have, like, different niches, and so we built a board, our founding board. We were very specific about the kind of support we added to the board. Like we had a legal person, we had people who were finance people, people who were strategic business planners, because we were like delving into mental health issues at the time, and that was 20 years ago. We had a psychologist who was part of our founding board. So making sure that the network of people that were part of the building of task, not just like nourishing me personally, but also like the whole vision of what we had in store. But to your point, the stress and the stress skills, I think if I had been just starting my career, I think it would have been considerably more stressful. But being able to lean on some of my own like coping skills and things that I knew, I'm a pretty positive person. I know how to sort of self-coach myself into, you know, remaining calm and processing my anxieties and all of those kind of things. So I think that helped a lot that I wasn't, just new to all of that level of stress, and I had a little bit um, of, tools in my tool belt already, and that I think that helped a lot, but, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That experience is, I mean, that's something you can't buy, and that's something that you can't learn. You have to
Sure.
just be immersed in a field to get experience like that, and that is
Sure.
extremely important.
Yeah.
So, what are if you were to say, like, some specific stress skills you use, and so this could be
Mhm.
anything like a 90-second pause, or it
Mhm.
could be, like, breathing techniques, it could be journaling,
Right.
or it could be going on a walk just to get some sunshine. What would be your favorite stress skills, and maybe some stress skills that you would teach others to use and that you think that would work for others?
Sure. Well, I think journaling is probably for me is a go-to. I really do. I like to process by externalizing things. So being able to get things on paper, and obviously as a therapist, I use that a lot. I encourage students to do it a lot. In 20 years, that's changed from paper and pencil or markers to recording notes for yourself that you can play back for yourself, that those kind of things. So, like, digital journaling is what I would call it. But I'm also I really really like to be outside. So I like to hike and bike, and so that nature um, component is a really big component for me, and when it comes to reducing stress. So I don't I have learned how to regulate through breathing and that kind of stuff if I feel a lot of really big things that are um, might challenge my thought processes, and I'm pretty good about being able to navigate those. But yeah, but I think just a general self-awareness to physical, emotional kind of things, and then knowing which one of those stress skills to use is, I think that's a really important thing for me.
Absolutely. And that is also something that, I mean, takes a while to learn. I mean, I'm still learning and trying to figure out what those triggers are, which trigger isn't necessarily the right word for this specifically, but I mean, ultimately, you have a stressful event that triggers this flood of hormones into your brain, and this is your stress response. And so,
Mhm,
and I still have a hard time figuring out when I'm in my stress response and then trying to figure out
mhm.
what stress skills to use for that specific thing. It's
Sure.
hard to figure out when you're just starting to think about it.
It is. Yeah. No, you're right. I love this, couple of I don't can't remember when it was, but I was at an event, and we were talking about self-care and boundary making, all those kind of things that therapists talk about. But, somebody said that we were talking about preventative stress skills, being able to, before you recognize that you're in a stress response, to be able to kind of build into your habits, some things that keep your stress low. And I love this. Somebody said you should divert daily. And then I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" And they said, "Well, you know how like you just like we just have regular things that we do, like our stress response is pretty much this, we do them in a similar way." And they said, "You should just like force yourself to divert daily. If you're sitting, just be like, yeah, I'm just going to walk around the building." Or it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could just be a very small diversion from your normal thing. And a lot of those are things that are on the stress skill part of the framework, right? Like things like just put on some calm music, or just sit in a chair and relax for a minute, or take time to pray, or do things that are um, not what you would be doing in the moment, and then just kind of keep your stress low. Then that kind of reduces the stress responses and ultimately maybe burnout. So I thought that was really cool. So I think of it often. Yeah, I think of it often, like, if I'm in my car and I have an extra 5 or 10 minutes, I think, "Oh, I'm just gonna divert and drive on a different route," and then you recognize new things, and yeah, it's a very fun thing.
That is amazing. I think I need to start trying that more often.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially being someone who works from home, it's like the same thing all day, every day.
Sure. Yeah.
Going
Divert.
5-minute walk around the block would probably keep my stress low at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's
so
fun.
fun.
That is amazing. I really need to start trying that. And I love every time I do these podcasts, I feel like I learn something new. And that is literally my favorite part about doing them, because everybody has different stress skills and happiness habits and inspired actions. But hearing them out loud and like hearing the ways that they can be used and examples and how they help somebody, it's
Mhm.
really, I mean, it's the whole point of doing this so that we can share skills with other people.
Right.
But I mean, so much is shared with me. I'm like, every single time I learn something, I'm like, this is something that I'm going to incorporate
Something
in my
new.
daily life. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So let's get into some of our happiness habits. And these are things that keep you in your upstairs brain. And I know that you know all of this, but for all of the listeners.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, when you're in your stress response, you're in your
Mhm.
downstairs brain, you're flooded with these hormones. And happiness habits are things that you can do to return to your upstairs brain, or there are things you can do to keep you in your upstairs brain. So, whenever
Mhm.
you talked about diverting, that kind of reminded me of this, because it's not necessarily that you're avoiding anything, it's just
Mhm.
taking a break from something that you would normally be doing, or going on a different route, or going on a walk really quick.
Sure.
And those things could be happiness habits. They're things that keep you in your upstairs
Mhm.
brain. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily do them just when you're downstairs, but do them all the time. So you don't ever go downstairs.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Well, and ideally, like not, not becoming hopeless, kind of help if you can stay in the upstairs brain as much as possible. Yeah, then you don't have to be as quite as deliberate. So practicing happiness habits is, I think, again, another thing that keeps you from getting into that space.
Absolutely. It's very important. And everybody experiences these moments of hopelessness all the time. And I mean, I'm sure everybody experiences a moment of hopelessness at least
Hmm.
once a day.
Sure.
These moments are so common, and we need to talk about them more. We need to normalize them and normalize the idea of having them, because sometimes when you have multiple a day, it can just feel like so down, and
Sure.
it can just bring you down to that state of hopelessness. So, practicing these happiness habits is so encouraging, and so just it keeps you inspired, it keeps you motivated, it keeps you thinking logically. And
Hmm.
so these can be anything, like this can be exercising, this could be drinking a cup of coffee on your porch in the morning, or
Hmm.
just going to get a coffee with a friend. So, what would be some happiness habits that you use in your daily life? Maybe a non negotiable happiness habit, or just something that you do once a week?
Yeah, I think that for me, the trying to stay in my upstairs brain, like I think is really. understanding why I do what I do, right? Like activating that purpose. Like my purpose right now is to make sure teens in our community have access to the resources that they need, and that include that's kind of also pursuing my passion. So, like I say, if I start every day there, I think it's easier to stay in a state of incredible hopefulness. It's just it that's really a great thing. But I think that it makes me happy to be outside exercising. Hiking and biking are like a big deal for my joy meter. Just to be able to really be in that space. But gratitude is another really important thing for me. Like it's a good day for me when I write 9 or 10 thank you notes. Like that's just a really good day for me. So I am a thank you note writer. I do like to just think about even if people are just, they were just thoughtful in a moment. And I just really want to be able to stay in a place of gratitude, and writing that is kind of like journaling gratitude. So writing thank you notes is a big deal. And I try to make sure weekly that I'm writing several. But like I said, sometimes one day could require a whole bunch of thank you notes. And that's a good thing. So
Absolutely. I think that is so sweet and truly just so thoughtful of you because not only does it keep you in a place of gratitude, but to
mhm.
the person who is receiving that thank you note, I'm sure just hearing how much they are appreciated and how grateful you are for them is, I'm sure that's just such an amazing feeling for them as well.
So
That's truly one of the most selfless happiness habits I've ever heard. I really appreciate that.
thank you.
It is amazing, and then it's amazing to express gratitude, it's amazing to receive gratitude.
Mhm.
So, I appreciate that, and
Sure.
I do think that I mean, you also offer so many happiness habits to the teens in your area. I
Mhm.
know
Yeah.
you mentioned you do arts and crafts. That is a happiness
Mhm.
habit, and painting is something that can keep you in your upstairs brain. I paint all the time because that's
That's so
just
cool.
something that I enjoy to do, and
Mhm.
I feel like you are teaching these kids how to do happiness habits. Maybe they don't really paint a lot, or maybe they don't have a lot of time to, but you are teaching them
I'm
how and okay.
I'm gonna have to pause one.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's so important to be teaching the students those things that they might not have the opportunity to do at home, or maybe they don't have the opportunity to do it at school. And you are giving them the opportunity to do
Yeah.
those happiness habits. And I think that that's probably why they feel so comfortable with you because they're always happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even when
Hope
they're
so.
hot, you help them get back to that place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
So that leads us right into inspired actions and how, we have to set these goals for ourselves. And whether that is a big overarching goal of this is what I want to do, or it's just these micro steps and these micro goals that lead you to the next day. So, I mean, this can be literally anything, but regarding to task and the creation and how you founded it and how you're supporting these teens, what are some of the goals that you self set for yourself and set for this company and how you created it and how you teach inspired actions to your teens? And did you ever have to re-goal at any point because
Oh
maybe
yeah.
one wasn't reachable?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I think this is probably one of the things that I like the way my brain works is a little bit different. Smart goals and stretch goals and that kind of thing are like I can do a lot of visioning, but then like putting the steps into place. Sometimes I need help with that. So I've always really appreciated people who can structure strategic planning and that kind of thing into something that bites it into smaller pieces so we can get the whole cake. But I've learned how to do it, and I think that I'm much better at I can create a big picture, but then probably need people to come in and really help establish some large incremental goals. But I'm really good at micro goals. Like I'm very focused on calendar for the day. It's basically how I start my day, and making sure I know what's in front of me. How am I going to be able to get that accomplished? And then because I use electronic calendars, if I feel like, okay, there's too much in the day for today, I'm going to have to slide this thing over here. Or maybe I'm going to have to slide this thing 2 days out, so that I don't get overwhelmed and so that I can make each day as achievable as possible. I don't always get everything done that I need to get done, but that's always my goal for the day. And then oftentimes then I can look at like the cool thing about the digital calendar, can look at my day and then I can look at my week. And so I can try to do that and keep things structured in a way so that that incorporates like the visualization piece too, but it does help me see like, are there other goals that need to be set in a week where there's not a whole lot maybe on the calendar, or is there something really big coming up in a couple of weeks that I need to make sure I'm incrementally stepping into so that on that week, I don't have to try to do, 150 things. So I'm kinda learned how to do that a little bit. I think that helps the students that I work with, and I know that our team, works really well with students in those kind of things. But even in a therapeutic environment where we're doing counseling um, and students feel like it's too big, whatever challenge they have in front of them, trauma that they've, had to endure and thinking about healing or thinking about making changes or anything like that just seems so incredibly big. I try to take them back to let's just do some smaller things like in the next week. Maybe our goal at the end of the month is for this to be happening, but let's don't look at the whole month. Let's just go back to a week at a time. So I think that's been helpful, like, that's kind of how my brain works, um, and I don't mind acknowledging that I can put the big picture together, but, like, painting in the lines is a little hard for me, and that's okay. So, I'm really inspired by people who can do that, and, I just try to stick to what I can do.
Absolutely. No, I mean, creating those micro goals is important, but
Mhm.
I do get that it is so hard to kind of can see what you want to do. You can see what you want to
Mhm.
create, but trying to figure out how to get there is
Yeah,
the hard part. I mean,
it is, yeah.
that's the part that takes a lot of work and a lot of,
Mhm.
I mean, planning, really.
Mhm. Absolutely, yeah.
I use a electronic calendar too. I use Google Calendar, and I
Mhm.
love being able to see what I have planned out for each day. But I agree that it is so nice to see, like, oh, I have this at the end of the month. I should probably start thinking about it now.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's sometimes in a paper planner, like I do have a paper planner too, and I love it. But I go day by day in that, and then sometimes I'll reach a day and I'm like, oh my gosh, this was a big project. I should have started on like a week ago.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, I really appreciate how you brought in your nourishing networks into that. And we briefly discussed how your nourishing networks helped you create the company.
Mhm.
And I mean, let's talk a little bit about who those people are. And I know that you said your board is built of a lot of
Mhm.
intentional people. So,
Right, right,
who
yeah.
would be your nourishing networks who not only support task, but also support you?
Personally, yeah, I have really good networks of friends and people who know me well. And then I also have people who, know me like professionally and can speak into, you know, kind of how I can care for myself or what they see in me. I'm a pretty direct person. I really like people who are like that. So that's super helpful for me too. But I have a really good network of really trusted people who will tell me, "Hey, I think you're tired. I think you need a break." I think my husband's really good at that too. But yeah, and then in our community, I'm just always really, networking is such an important part of being in any business, whether it's nonprofit or if it's retail or whatever. But um, I'm always really, uh, I'm always really filled by the fact that people genuinely want to help, and so, like, being able to collaborate with people gives me a lot of energy, and I have a lot of gratitude around that, and try to make sure that they know how grateful I am in the midst of that. But, um, yeah, I think that's important. And then there's a lot of, professional stuff that, that I think is important to nourishing me as well, like keeping me connected to best practices for adolescent care and different models of positive development and just resiliency building and those kind of things. So when you talk about effective listening, it's a people thing, but it's also a professional thing. So I try to make sure that I select webinars and have continuing education things that are really going to nourish not just the work I do, but the framework that I use to do it. So
Absolutely.
I'm kind of feel affirmed in what we're doing and how it could really do what you want it to do, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really helpful.
Isn't it so fulfilling to know that you are doing something so amazing that so many people want to help you with it?
That is very, yeah, that's very fulfilling. Like when I talk to people and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's so that's so needed or so, but just that they recognize that the work that we do really isn't it has an impact, but it's needed, and
Absolutely.
it's important work. So yeah, that fills my cup too.
Absolutely. I can't even imagine. I
Mhm.
mean, I truly do think that you do the most incredible work. And
Thanks.
I mean, seeing the children firsthand be so excited to be there with you. And I'm sure it took a variety of people to help you create
Yeah,
everything that you have. And I love it.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Your husband is also just incredible and kind. And
He is. Yeah.
so let's talk about some of the challenges that you had maybe going into this. And this could also be maybe something that someone else within the board maybe had that you might have helped them through. So eliminating challenges, I mean, this can be anything from like negative bias or automatic negative thoughts to all or nothing thinking or
Mhm.
thinking of automatic failure, these things, or even just rumination and worrying. These things
Sure.
are so common. So,
Mhm.
did you have experience with any of these things throughout this process? And if you did, how
Mhm.
did you get past them?
Sure. Yeah, I think probably for me personally, like one of my biggest challenges is always just that limiting belief, right? Like when you vision something, you're like, "Oh, I think it could be this," and then later you realize, "Oh, wait, it probably could have been this," you know? So, there's a little bit of that always. I think sometimes I, have to be pushed a little bit to really, like, think beyond. A lot of that has to do, obviously, with, financial restriction, right? So, we're an agency that doesn't charge, people don't buy our product, they don't pay for services, except we do work on a sliding scale for our counseling, our individual counseling, um, but that certainly doesn't, navigate very much of our budget. So There is a lot of that, and I'm prone to be like, well, that's not something I'm good at, or I'm not sure that I could make something like that happen. Like, obviously, that, you know, negative belief of myself and my ability. Sometimes I try to make that a pitch for just being realistic, because everybody can't be good at everything. But I think I've learned how to acknowledge that do have limits, just like everybody else, but I'm not limited, because I have these nourishing networks, right? I have all these people that can speak into things. So I think in building a nonprofit, that's been one of the things, is that I may acknowledge that I might not be, able to work spreadsheets or do something, that's a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, but I know a lot of people. And so somebody would be able to help with that. But then sometimes I'm on the opposite side, right? So sometimes I'm like working with people and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, we could do this and we could do that." And I have very unlimited beliefs, and they have to remind me that, "Hey, let's try to work in a framework that's attainable, achievable right now." And then we can do that. And I'll share this. I shared it at an event, a previous we had a event for all of our board members over the last 20 years, to talk about our growth plan. We have a growth trajectory that we're working on right now that includes, expanding our reach and also the number of students we serve, but it'll require a new building, all of those kind of things. And so when we gathered for the very first time, some of our founding board members, we met at my house and we talked about what tasks could be. And I was just like, and we could do this and we could do that. I wanted to do every single thing that every single team needed. And one of our board members said, "Hey, Dawn, like what you want to do is like way out here, and what we need to do is like focus on this." Like, he actually did this thing. He said, "Let's just try to work in here." And I'm like, "Oh, okay," which made sense at the time because we had no funding. We had to start there.
Absolutely.
And so when we were at the event together, we were talking a little bit about that, and I just said, to the group, I said, "There was a time where we had to be here, and now we can think here." It took 20 years, but
Definitely.
now we can really think here. So I think, like, the challenges change over time, and I think trying to balance it being like limited in your belief, but also not getting outside of like the goal setting to where you don't get to achieve, because if you don't get to achieve, then you stay locked in that, not just the
Exactly.
limiting thing, but the negative thoughts, right? Like, you get stuck in those automatic negative thoughts. This isn't going to work. So I think that there's evaluating what the challenges are each time you're really kind of setting the next step or the next step. I think that's really helpful.
Absolutely. There's a really fine balance between limited beliefs and setting attainable goals.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
I learned that lesson. Well. Mhm.
And a lot of these challenges, a lot of eliminating challenges is about experience and about learning from your experiences and learning from your challenges and learning how
Mhm.
to maybe handle them better next time.
Sure.
Because you never know when you're going to reach a certain challenge or when anything is going to come your way. You never know what's going to
Right.
happen. You never know what tomorrow's going to look like, but learning from each experience and learning how to handle each challenge is important. And there's wisdom in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There really is.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. And sometimes, you need to have people around you that can help you keep the balance and that kind of
Absolutely.
thing. So, yeah. So I work really hard with other people, students a lot, sometimes parents of students, on negative framing, just really trying to help them shift the littlest things, from a negative into a positive. And I think, that's something that again, I've learned over time, like you said, just it takes, some experience with that to see the difference. And, a positive youth development model is really focused on just those little nuances that are, less about, you know, you didn't study for a test, so you're probably gonna fail to, um, I'm sure that you can, do well on this test if you put your effort into it. Like just the tiniest shift keeps your that negative mindset can just really shift that around. So I think that I have to remind myself of that too. Like how can you would talk to yourself in a way that's
Yeah.
less of a negative framework.
Absolutely. It's almost like these positive affirmations, but lesser so. Like it's just a
Mhm.
general conversation that you can have with yourself, but you have to carefully choose the words
Yeah.
that are kind and
Mhm.
caring and
Yeah.
that will take care of your health.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, what are some final thoughts that you would share? And I feel like we've covered so many different things and so many different topics.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
So, to stay on the topic of the Teen Action and Support Center,
Mhm.
what are 3 pieces of advice you'd give to teens right now?
Oh, wow. 2 teens. Um, I think I think the first thing I would say is that, comparison can be a joy killer.
Absolutely.
It can be a hope stifler. So, like, when I was in school, I had a professor who said that best thing you can do when you're working with teens is don't be more of the same. Like, don't be like everybody else, And I think sometimes we tell teenagers that, but then we set this expectation that they will be like everybody else. So they begin to compare, whether it's, like, um, standardized testing or social media, whatever. We kind of set the expectation that they will be like other teens that are good. And so, yeah, I think that would be the first thing. I also think I'd tell teens often, like, you can overcome anything. You can overcome anything except death. Like, when you're not here anymore, you can't do anything different. But as long as you are here in this life, you can overcome anything. Because I believe that to be true. And I've seen it be true. Like kids who have, 10 out of 10 things from adverse childhood experience categories can become the most incredible human beings and they can overcome anything. Um, so it would probably be that those two things. Comparison is the hope killer and stifler, I should say, not killer, but a hope stifler. And you can overcome anything, and then probably just um, yeah, I don't want to say don't, just continue to dream, but um, I think being able to believe in the dreams that you have is a really important thing. I think you can figure out you can use the Shine Hope network, all of the, it's stressful. You have you have to do things in your life to make things happen. That stuff's just not going to happen for you. But if you don't dream it, you can't do it. And there's a framework to like really live into what you truly believe about yourself. So, yeah, I think that'd probably be it.
Absolutely. I love those, and I love that every teen all around the world needs to hear those things, and, ah, truly, like, I really resonate with the second piece of advice you gave on you can overcome anything while you're
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
'Cause, honestly, like, taking advantage of the resources that you have is really important, but I feel like at that age, it's really hard to. And,
Yeah.
most teens still rely on others for transportation, communication, etc. So, I mean, it's hard to take advantage of resources they have, but you and TASC, that is one of the most amazing resources that a kid can possibly have.
Thank you.
And I truly believe that. And thank you so much for
You.
coming on and sharing your story. And I
Thanks.
hope that this inspires somebody to
Me
to
too.
do something that they believe in, or go to task, or volunteer at task.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I love it. I love the opportunity to really, um, just kind of relate what we do to the Shine Hope framework. It's so good. I use it off. I use the components, but then I use the whole thing like with students, like just so that they can move themselves from that place where they just don't think they can do it or don't think it will be different or um but but yeah, just to really be able to teach them, like, there are very specific things you can do, to move yourself out of that sense of hopelessness. So I love it. I love you guys, and I'm really grateful to be connected and to work together in our community.
Well, thank you so much. I love working with you.
Great, good. All right, it was so good to see you.
Good to see you too. And thank you all for listening.
All right, thanks.
Thank you all for listening to the Hope Matrix on Campus podcast. I hope to have provided you with actionable insights and a framework that you can use to start activating higher hope in your life today. And don't forget that hope is measurable and teachable. This program is designed to assist you in learning about hope, but it should not be used for medical advice, counseling, or other health-related services. I, Fred, the Shine Hope Company, and myself, Avery Peel, do not endorse or provide any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am not a medical doctor. The information provided here should not be used for the diagnosis or treatment of any medical condition and cannot be substituted for the advice of physicians, licensed professionals, or therapists who are familiar with your specific situation. Consult a licensed medical professional or call 911 if you're in need of immediate assistance, and be sure to know the crisis hotline 988 if you are in need of support. We are better with hope. Please feel free to check out theshinehopecompany.com, where we list all of our resources around how to hope. We have a lot of free programs for how to hope, including the 5-day challenge, our hope infographic with a lot of skills that showcase how to hope, and articles of how to incorporate hope in your life. We have the Hope Beat Weekly, which is a weekly newsletter that shares strategies for hope. We have my Shine Hope story template, so you can write your own Shine Hope story today. Also, my Shine Hope hero, so we can share what our heroes are doing to activate hope in our lives. And this is especially good with youth, so they can start looking up to people that have overcome similar challenges to them and seeing how these heroes use the Shine Hope framework. We have a Hopeful Minds for Teens program and Hopeful Minds Overview Educator Guides. We have a new evidence-based college course so you can activate hope on the college campus. There are programs in the workspace, overview courses, 90-minute courses for learning the what, why, and how to hope. What I want you to know about hope is it's a skill you've got to practice to become more hopeful. It's easy to fall into despair and helplessness when we deal with challenges in life, and it takes intentional work and practice to get to hope. And yet it is always possible. So no matter what life brings, keep shining hope. Thanks so much for listening and have an awesome day.